after 6 months with the DM15 R2R, this isn't an audio CD player. Not in the same way a Discman is. The FiiO DM15 is hiding 3 devices in one. But will it read FLAC files as well? Crazy, right? Here's the feature nobody talks about. What's the thing with R2R? No, not that. And to understand why it's so buzzworthy, let's rewind a few decades and put the DM15 up against some of the greatest Discman and answer the obvious question. Should you buy a brand new CD player or go on eBay and hunt down a classic? Just when I thought this video was finally ready, FiiO sent over their new DM15 AKM version. The first thing I noticed is that the lid now has some friction and won't shut close freely anymore. I'm very much looking forward to comparing the sound of the two, but everything else we talk about in this video applies to both, so keep watching. The DM15 is part of FiiO's retro products line, but early portable CD players and this are very different devices. The DM15 is packed with modern goodies. It's a USB DAC, has balanced outputs, a lithium rechargeable battery, Bluetooth, audio ripping and more. So let's start with a headline feature. What the DAC is R2R. R2R refers to a certain type of digital to analog converter. There are two common approaches to converting the digital samples back into analog: multi-bit and 1-bit. An R2R DAC is a type of multi-bit DAC. The name basically describes what the circuit looks like and the components. A series of resistors with just two values, R and twice R, and they're arranged in a ladder pattern. Here we are now, 40 years after the CD was introduced, with custom R2R DACs making a comeback. The DM15 costs around $270 and is marketed as a portable CD player and external DAC. Of course, the flagship feature is FiiO's 4-channel fully differential 24-bit R2R resistor array converter. But that's just a fraction of the story, because the DM15 is hiding 3 devices in one: a CD transport, a USB digital bridge, and an R2R DAC. Looking at it purely as a DAC, it slots right in between FiiO's K11 and K13 R2R DACs. But the DM15 can be your digital audio hub in a way none of these can. Remember when I said earlier that DM15 isn't a CD player in the same way a Discman is? That's because the FiiO works more like an audio matrix. You've got CD and USB inputs and 3 output options: analog, PDIF digital and Bluetooth. And combinations of these give you a multitude of use cases: headphone listening, preamp, CD transport, USB to PDIF bridge and Bluetooth. So before we look at each scenario in practice, let's discuss sources. The USB input accepts sampling rates up to 384 kHz 32-bit and DSD256. Cool, but CD playback is where things get really crazy. So of course the DM15 reads regular audio CDs, and I knew that data CDs with MP3 and WAV files would be probably accepted, but will it read FLAC files as well? Yep. High resolution FLACs? Sure, no problem with the 88.2 kHz files I tested. And I also tried DSF files and reading from a memory stick, but no. Curiosity aside, this test wasn't entirely pointless, because if you for whatever reason want to listen to lossless audio from a CD and get more playtime, FLACs can give you that. For headphone listening or as a preamp, you set the output to pre-out and you get a sound from the built-in R2R DACs via 4 connectors. The 3.5mm single-ended jack and the more powerful 4.4mm balanced output on the front can drive pretty much any headphone. The other pair on the back are dedicated single-ended and balanced line outputs to connect the DM15 to an amp or to speakers. As far as I can tell, there's no fixed volume option. Now, if you want want to try out other DACs, you can use the DM15 purely as a CD transport. Set the output to SPI and the 3.5mm jack on the back doubles as an optical and coaxial output. FiiO include a coax adapter in the box, which is nice. But here's the feature nobody talks about. USB in, PDIF out. In this combination, the DM15 becomes a digital-to-digital converter, or a bridge. Why is this relevant? Because many older DACs and active speakers have digital inputs, but not USB. So the DM15 acts as a bridge passing on digital data from USB to the PDIF output. This is a feature you don't see too often. FiiO mentions something in passing on their detailed UAC decoding page, and just by looking at this page you can tell how many of the DM15's features aren't immediately obvious. Okay, there's a caveat here. I don't know if the digital output is bit perfect. Yes, the bit rate is the same between input and output, but I don't know if any processing happens in between. Because looking at the DM15's diagram, you just assume that all sound and signal processing happens after the DAC section. If so, EQ settings and MagicBass should have no effect on the digital outputs, but they do. The volume control, on the other hand, has no effect on the digital outputs or on the Bluetooth transmission, so I don't know exactly. Both CD and USB audio can be beamed via Bluetooth in a number of standards and high-resolution codecs. Paired devices can be easily added and removed via the Transmit Pair menu. Just make sure you are in BT output mode, because otherwise you won't see it. Finally, the playback controls on the DM15 work as media keys when connected via USB, which was a surprising discovery. Now that we've covered use cases, let's talk about desktop mode. You see this second USB-C connector? That's the power input. The DM15 won't charge over the audio USB in. Once you flip the D mode switch on, two things happen. The DM15 bypasses the battery to protect it long term, and you get more power from the headphone outputs, up to 1150 milliwatts via the balanced connection. And you can keep the electronic shock protection permanently off, even on the go. The mechanism is solid, and there seems to be some buffering even without ESP enabled. I walked with it, I took it on trains, and it didn't skip once. Yeah, you can shake it violently and the music will eventually stop, but don't. Another feature I've kept off is MagicBass. While the name is a neat Sony MagicBass throwback, I've found it to mostly reduce the higher frequencies and muffle the mids instead of doing anything meaningful to the lower frequency regions. And the final trick up the DM15's CD sleeve is rec mode. You can save audio CD tracks as WAV files to a memory stick, but it's done in real time as it plays through the entire CD without any metadata. So what is it like to live with a DM15? I love that so much of the functionality is mapped to physical controls, but everyone I've shown the DM15 to found the tiny buttons challenging to use and the text labels difficult to read. It's nice that the buttons are clicky and all, which makes up for the short travel, but size aside, there's no differentiation or anything to help you quickly identify what's what. Case in point, look at the first ever portable CD player, the Sony D50. See how the play button is really large compared to the other buttons? Or the D-515, so easy to instinctively reach out for the play and stop buttons. Oh, you want a sleeker design? The D303 has nice pill-shaped playback controls, with a larger play button and a differentiated round stop button. Even sleeker, the thinnest Discman ever made still manages to make the play-pause button larger while using round buttons for playback controls and rectangular buttons for options. Luckily, the control knob gets everything right. size, feel, texture, and you'll use it to adjust the volume and navigate the menu. A long press gives you access to the EQ settings, audio ripping, playback modes, display options, and so on. The one critical setting is this APD thing. I think it stands for automatic power down. I had it set initially to off, and that explains why I kept finding the battery drained. It's now set to power down after 10 minutes, and that's cool with me. Playing CDs after a power down, however, takes a fair bit. First, you press and hold the power button for a couple of seconds. Then it takes a few more to be greeted by this hello message. The DM15 reads the disc, and once that's done, you're ready to roll. Older Discmen will probably start playing quicker. The built-in battery is good for about 7 hours of CD playback and 11 in USB DAC mode. PD fast charging takes about 2 hours for a full juice up. And the DM15 also comes with an infrared remote, and honestly it's easier to use than the on-device controls. Of course, early Discman could use full-size remotes via an adapter. In terms of on-screen information, it's fairly minimal. You get mode and status messages, the bitrate in USB mode, and for CD playback, only the current track number and elapsed time are displayed. No track or disc remaining time, no total disc time, no CD text, and no ID3 tags or file names for MP3s. All files on a data disk just show up as a long list of tracks. I mean, if something like the Sony D-Z555 from 2004 can do it, I'm sure it can be done in 2026. Most of these could be added via a software update, because of course you can update the firmware, and to do that you need a Windows machine and you have to install a driver. Early Discmen were more transportable than portable, a component you could take with you to the office using the car and plug back into your hi-fi at home. For walking, we had Walkman. I tried walking with the DM15 and it works great, but it wouldn't fit even in my jacket pocket. And you know what else tells me this isn't really meant to be portable? There's no hold button, no way of locking the controls so they're not accidentally pushed on the go. The DM15 weighs 471 grams and measures 144 by 137 by 25.5 millimeters. A bit larger than many Discmen, but quite a bit smaller compared to contemporary CD players. That's all great, but what does it sound like? I've listened to music across a variety of genres, switching between the DM15 and Sony's Z555 and D-515 Discman. I chose these two as comparisons because the Z555 is considered one of Sony's best Discman and is the only one to use a dual 8 times over something multi-bit DAC, and the D-515 is one of the most appreciated 1-bit designs. All observations are based on stationary listening with ESP off, no bass or EQ adjustments on any player, using the HiFiMan AG1000 SE planar magnetic headphones and Sony's Z1R IEMs. Playing Radiohead's Kid A or In Rainbows, I kept reaching for the DM15. With airy electronic music like Nicolas Jarre's Space Is Only Noise, my preference was for the Z555. Bands like Metallica or the Beastie Boys paired really well with the D515's energy. That's not to say one was better than the other, it was just a slight preference. Maybe most surprisingly, the audible gap between these decades-apart players is much narrower than I imagined. I couldn't pick a clear winner. While the Z555 paints a wider soundstage, I find the DM15 cozier. It doesn't ask for attention. The D515 slams harder, but I hear a lot more detail on the feel. Everything I've listened to on the DM15 came across as natural, with no artificial sharpening. My favorite pairing is with electronic music. Also, its laid-back sound pairs well with less than ideal mixes, especially those from early CDs and from the loudness wars, by not trying to emphasize resolution. Where the DM15 shines brightest is vocal texture and mid-frequency timbre. I guess this is why listening to it felt like watching a comfort TV show. The smooth sound comes with a slightly narrower sound stage, and this is where moving up to an external DAC like FiiO's K17 can result in audible improvements. The only two minor annoyances I want to point out are a slight clicking sound each time the DM15 has finished loading a CD, and this message when pushing the volume past 70. I'm not sure if this is a Europe only or a worldwide thing, but if the warning could be turned off in the settings, that would be great. While vintage CD players sometimes struggle reading certain discs, especially slightly scratched ones, the FiiO read absolutely anything I've thrown at it. The FiiO DM15 is probably the most expensive CD jewel case that can also play the content. It looks great placed horizontally, but I prefer it upright because it feels like a canvas. Put a CD in and you're literally looking at art. I really like the large glass window. It's my favorite CD player released in recent years. The DM15 is available in red, white, silver, black and retro gold. It's an all-metal build and it feels solid and it's really well made. The new spring-loaded ball clamping mechanism grips the disc with a satisfying click. My DM15 didn't come with a protective film installed, and I failed miserably trying to apply it, but that's great for you because I can now report that aside from being a fingerprint magnet, the glass still looks pristine. And speaking of magnets, the lid is firmly held closed by magnets on both sides, and FiiO went so far as to use a magnetic switch to know when the lid is open or closed. The FiiO DM15 isn't the only new CD player with an R2R DAC. The Juno Concept R with its industrial Pro Tool look is an interesting option, as is the Shanling EC0T, where T stands for the tube output stage. However, both cost more than twice the FiiO's asking price and are quite a bit larger. And of course there are swaths of CD players from the late 80s and 90s, which brings us to the initial question: should you buy a brand new CD player or go on eBay and get a classic? A great Discman to me is like fine dining. It's something to enjoy on occasion when the mood is right. For day-to-day listening, I find myself reaching for the DM15 more and more. FiiO have correctly identified the nostalgia market, and the DM15 sits next to a tiny radio, a portable cassette player and a turntable. So let's see how the CD's second coming pans out. The FiiO DM15 strikes a great balance in terms of size, price, design and functionality. And if you're looking to play back music on your own terms again, or add another CD player to your collection, the DM15 is highly recommended. If you made it this far, you're awesome and thank you. The truth is, making these videos takes a lot of time, and choosing quality over quantity isn't the most algorithm-friendly way to grow on YouTube, which is why I want to ask for your help. There are a few easy and free ways to support the channel. Like and hype this video. Subscribe and hit the bell icon. And if you want to get the DM15 or anything else really, please use the affiliate links in the video description. It doesn't cost you anything extra and I may earn a small commission. If you'd like to contribute more directly, consider joining as an insider here on YouTube or on Patreon. The Technostalgism store with original retro-inspired merch like this t-shirt is also linked below. Special thanks to the first insiders. You guys are super mega awesome. And thanks to FiiO for sending the DM15 over. As always, there's no payment or editorial input for this video. Cheers.